looking at the file system. Let's bring this up. So it's looking at this file system. It's only going to look at this inside the samples folder, because if you look carefully, our index.html page is placed inside the samples folder. It's not this link tag is not going to look above this samples folder, or what I mean by that, it's not going to look before this samples folder. It's only going to look what's after this samples folder. So it will see that it has the samples folder has two additional subfolders because they come after this samples folder. So those additional folders are CSS and the image subfolders. So if you look at this path, this is called a path. This is called a file path. I'm first looking at the CSS folder. We already know there is a CSS folder. First, I'm looking at the CSS folder. Then I want to retrieve the stylings from the basic webpage.css style sheet. So to do that, I need to use a /. So what this actually means is that it's telling the web server, if you upload this page on a web server, it will tell the web server that first look into the CSS folder. So the web server will look at the CSS folder, and then when it encounters this /, the CSS folder, the web server will then look inside that subfolder called CSS. So it will then move on to this, into the interior of the subfolder. Then it's going to read a file name with an extension of .css. So it's going to read that the name is basic webpage.css. So it's going to look again at the folder, and inside that folder it sees that the basic webpage.css file exists. So it's then going to open that up and retrieve all the stylings from this style sheet. Now if you look carefully at this rel attribute, it's telling, I'm going to discuss about this attributes later on, but just remember that because we're going to retrieve a style sheet or a CSS folder, a CSS file, sorry. So a CSS file has another name of style sheet. So it's telling, so this link tag is telling the web server that this file is going to be a style sheet. It's telling the file's type. So the type of file is a style sheet. So this thing is called an external link because we have created an additional file. We have created an additional style sheet or additional file with the extension of .css, and then we are bringing that file or bringing everything of that file inside this HTML page using this link tag. You can do the same thing using this style tag. If you look carefully, usually most of the HTML elements have an opening tag and a closing tag. So this style defines the formatting of these elements that exist inside this body part of the HTML page. So you can now cut this off, it's not required. So the best practice to make your code look a lot cleaner is to create an additional folder called CSS, additional subfolder called CSS, and then you should place all your style sheets inside that CSS folder. In that way, it will be a lot easier to maintain your style sheets. So then you can use the link tag. You can use the link tag inside this HTML page and bring all the functionalities and the features of that style sheet inside your HTML page. Now, an HTML page will always start with the tag of HTML. You can omit this part. You usually don't need that, but you can actually keep that. I'm going to talk about attributes a little later, but let's understand the basic structure of this. So if you look carefully at this page, this is the basic structure. There is no styling, there is no CSS formatting included. But in this one, we have formatting or CSS styling included. So inside this basic structure, let's just close off all of these parts. Otherwise, you'll get confused. Okay. So every HTML page or every web page will always have a head part and a body part. You can just imagine this structure like a human body. So a human body has a head, although yeah, we do have limbs, that's right, but let's use this analogy for this example. So like a human body, it will have the HTML page will always have a head part or a head section, and it will also have a body part. It's a requirement to create any web page. And remember that because we're going to create an HTML page, you need to have the opening HTML tag with the closing HTML tag. So remember to place all your page elements inside this body tag, and remember that this head section or this head part and the body tag must be included inside this HTML tags. So sorry for that. So like many other HTML tags, this HTML page needs to have an opening HTML tag with you can see the difference. With the closing HTML tag, it needs to be placed at the end of your document, this HTML document. So remember to always place your tags like this. Now there are tags that does not have the opening HTML tag and the closing tag. Now for the head part, you do have a closing an opening tag along with the corresponding closing tag. For the body part too, you also have an opening tag and a corresponding closing tag. So this is the convention whenever you this is the convention that needs to be followed whenever you need to create a web page. In a CSS file, it's a little different. It's not like what we see inside an HTML document. An HTML document will always start with this HTML tags. It needs to have an head part, and your style sheets needs to go inside the links towards that style sheet needs to go inside that opening and the closing head tag. Now every element that you see like in here or in this page, every element like this paragraph is an element. This image is also an element inside HTML. This heading is also an element inside an HTML page. So we have this entire element. Now what we see in here, or what is visible, is actually placed inside your body part. You can't really see what whatever is placed, whatever elements or whatever tags we place inside the head section. The head section is basically there to load all your scripts or all your style sheets. It's also there to place the title for your web page. So the title, basically you'll find the title on the tab. If you have opened up a tab on your web browser, you'll see that I have named my web page. This heading is inside the page, but this title is outside the page's context. It is placed on the tab. So you might have several tabs